Live, live, live. We are live, guys and gals. Guru Nation, what is up? We got Ashley, Margo. Ashley and Chris. I don't think they need introductions, but maybe. Like, certainly Chris doesn't. He's co-author of this book, which people are still buying. Chris, I should have
I know.
bet you on this when we
Oh,
wrote it.
wow.
Um, and then Ashley, Margo,
Mm.
career coach CR, you've done everything already in
Yeah.
your young career,
Hmm.
and we're here to talk to people. Latinos in Clinker Research co-founder, Save Our Sites co-founder. Are we announcing what your role at SOS is, or not yet?
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that. Yeah. I will be a presenter, but I'll also, well, on the panel, one panel, but I'll also be a co-MC. So it'll be nice.
MC, thank you.
Yeah.
Bless your heart for doing that too. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
So I'm curious.
Mhm.
You're actually on a panel, or you're a moderator?
Oh, moderator. Yes,
Okay.
moderator. Yes, I keep getting that confused between the facilitator and the moderator.
Yeah,
So,
I do
I
too.
still don't
Because
know
I
which one's
thought
which.
initially we were all going to be on panels, but it
yeah.
seems like none of us are on a panel. We're all moderators. Are you on a panel,
Yeah.
Dan?
No,
Yeah, but I
I'm
think he's a
something.
you're a
I'm something.
facilitator. So facilitator,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm something.
yeah,
I'm something.
you'll be in the conversation with the panelists, but the moderator is kind of there to kind of guide. So, and that was what I
Sure,
preferred,
sure,
honestly. Yeah.
sure.
We're here to
I
get
just thought
outcomes for
initially,
you, the attendees. Forget all these details, doesn't matter. We're here to get outcomes for you, like
Yes.
positive outcomes. So everything else is like internal
sh-
stuff. But Ashley's gonna be the
absolutely,
MC. It's
absolutely.
amazing.
I was just looking
Thanks.
for clarification because I was confused,
Yeah.
right?
I'll be confused until February 3rd.
Yeah.
Uh,
There you go.
but this is about careers, okay?
Hmm.
Like it's a very interesting time to
Hmm.
be in the industry because the economy's, some would say, in a recession or headed into one or trying to avoid one. I don't know. But research is always a little different.
Yes.
It's either first to react to something or last. And in this case, or it doesn't, like in COVID, like it didn't really get affected except for like a month.
Hmm.
Uh, where do you think we are now with research careers?
So, um, yes, I do believe the economy is not in a great space. However, in research, and not just in the sense of like my current role where I work, but in general, where from the LICR perspective, and as an organization where we communicate with these big CROs and sponsors, and even through the SOS perspective, where we also communicate CROs and sponsors, I feel that. What we keep hearing is that we need more. We need more help. We need more help. I do feel that if anybody's experiencing any sort of delay on the side of, applying, it's not because there's not jobs. I think it's because the industry is in the middle of trying to alter its processes and considering people both with experience and that with no experience, right? And so I believe the industry is in such a huge need, both on the CRA and CRC end, and now I think it's starting to trickle into management as well, to where there's just so much growth happening that they need to stop just basing it off of, oh, we need people with experience. They're already seeing that this is not something that's going to be able to continue like that. And so I think they're working towards the best ways to also bring on individuals that have no experience. But naturally, right, if you have a certification, if you have actual foundational training, that of course, like the CRA Academy really does help to propel you forward quicker in that process. It really helps to solidify your knowledge when it comes to being asked questions in the interviewing process. And especially even more so with the internship, right? Because now you have access to the systems, you have access to an actual study, you work with individuals virtually, right? And so you get a taste of what that looks like, what they're looking for, and how to go about answering those questions on a experience perspective.
And to elaborate on your initial parameters, Dan, uh, you were kind of making an argument that maybe times are getting slow. And I don't know how you feel about this, but I would say clinical research is one of the least affected in terms of recessions and everything else. Now, to be fair, it is still affected.
Mhm.
And I think Dan would agree. I don't think Ashley was in the research industry in 2008, but
No. Mm.
it definitely slowed down, but it was nothing compared to the other industries. They were still
Right.
hiring in research, sites were still doing studies, they were still being awarded studies. It just wasn't as busy as the busy times,
Hmm.
but it wasn't shut down like other industries.
And there's two positions that are the workhorses of this industry, and it's CRC and CRA.
Mhm.
And today we're here to talk about our CRA Academy because I really think these two positions, particularly, are the safest. Like, you never hear, and I don't think we will hear ever, CRCs are being outsourced or CRAs are being
Mhm.
outsourced. That's just not possible. You're hearing everything else, project manager maybe, CTMs, there's like rumblings. They're already with the data managers, it's already been outsourced. But
Mhm.
CRC is like very hands-on. Like, there's literally, you're in patients' veins getting blood. Like, you cannot
Yeah,
outsource this role.
Mhm.
we would have to reach true Android IA capacity for that to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can't even get sites to use e-consent. So we're far from this happening.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Uh,
completely
so
agree.
CRA workhorse. Here's another hot take we did with Tiffany Bennett, who's our instructor. By the way, Ashley is our internship mentor slash career coach.
Mhm.
So
CV prep too.
CV
Yes,
prep, she
and
will do your
interview,
resume,
phone mock, screen, and
wa-
all of that. Mhm.
everything, because
Yeah,
she's
very
done it
busy.
all herself. She
Mhm.
knows, like, it's the same reason me and Chris started our site services. We've done all these things ourselves, so we know what the pain points are, and now we're exchanging a small subscription fee for our services. And same thing with CRA Academy. Like, Ashley's done it herself. She knows what works to get your resume looked at. She knows what works on the interviews. Here's a hot take I had with Tiffany though, on the last podcast we did.
Mhm.
Um, CRA needs to know the protocol better than even the coordinators at the site,
Yes.
because coordinators usually have multiple studies. CRAs typically only one or two. It's
Mhm.
unusual if a CRA has more than that unless they're a contract CRA.
And if the CRC has a question, who are they calling?
Yeah, exactly. The
Mhm.
CRC is supposed to be the expert at the site, but
Mhm.
they're overworked. And then they call the CRA. The CRA needs to be on it. Like, that
Mhm.
protocol, that is, you are the protocol expert
Yeah.
for
And
that
I
study.
also think that the perspective of Zero and to sponsor, the CRA is the middleman, right, between CTM, the clinical trial study manager, as well as the sponsor, right? And so if there are things that are not working well with the site, the CRA is going to be the one to see those inconsistencies and ultimately send that back up through management and also help even sponsor view what might be what like we call like advocates for the sites, right? So that if there needs to be an amendment to the protocol, right, they have to be able to advocate that on behalf of the site or sites for the sponsor to see it and actually be able to make those changes. So, yeah, I mean, the CRA role, that's why I like it so much. I mean, I'm not personally a fan of too much of the travel. The great thing is that now they're also accommodating that, right, through remote work and assistant CRA roles. But I do like that you're the middleman. You have a lot more pull into helping make changes. Now, if you're very new, obviously that's not the case. You're going to get your feet wet a little bit, but because of that, you have so many ways that you can maneuver in the industry outside of that. Usually, everyone thinks of just going up to the CTM role, the clinical trial manager role is the next step, but no, you can go into project management, you can go into regulatory because you are so in depth and working with the protocol and all those processes that go with it. So it's really, I think, um, kind of what do they call it? Those Swiss Army knives, where
Mhm.
you can literally just go wherever.
And your role now, you're working for a sponsor, but your
Mhm.
previous role, you were at a CRO
Yes.
doing remote site monitor, which
Mhm.
is actually a really good position. I think
Mhm.
it's, I mean, it's not really entry level, but I think people have a much better chance of becoming a remote site monitor than becoming a CRA, at least initially.
Yeah.
And
And
you've
then
done a lot of site calls, like weekly site calls.
mhm.
Those things are annoying because the sponsor mandates them, but
Yeah.
you try to make the most out of them. Like, what did you? What was successful for you as far as like establishing a site rapport?
For sure. So, I mean, I naturally have always been a very organized person, but I think stepping into that role really helped me elevate that aspect of my skill set, times 20. It was a really great experience, but you have a lot more, I would say, um, just kind of how the CRA has that relationship with the site, you also do too. And if anything, you might even communicate with them even slightly more than the CRA does. And yes, you're right, it's not an entry role. So a lot of people going into CROs don't realize that, remote CRA, assistant CRA now for some places, there's level one up to level three, right? Level three being senior. I was two and level three at one point. So as you grow in that role, your responsibilities will grow as well. So it's not just, if I'm only an RSM or an assistant CRA, am I only going to, do this kind of work and that's it? No, you eventually have, you can either become lead or you can have some managerial experience. You can really kind of go in depth and being, a really close worker with the CRA as well that actually travels, right? And I do know that some CROs are even doing, to where, to accommodate. Again, they're really trying to bring people on. So one of the things that they did notice through COVID was that, remote work really is something that people value, because you get to have that work-life balance. And I think companies are seeing that now, especially with, actual points of burnout. So what they're doing, instead of you traveling so much and so far often, they're also now doing regional travel. So let's say for me, I'm in Austin, Texas, and I tell them I do not want to do national travel. It's too much, XYZ. They will give me travel within my region. So I can travel to Dallas or Houston or maybe just in the Austin area, right? And so that I can always come back home and still have that balance. So naturally, right, you don't know these things until you're actually in the industry and also get your feet wet in the industry. So again, one of the other reasons why I really like the academy is I keep telling the students all the time and people that I speak to on the side that if I had that opportunity, if I knew about your academy while I was in college, hands down, I would have used some of my extra, what's it called? I already forget. It's been so
Financial
long.
aid.
Financial aid. Yeah, I would have extracted if I could have and utilized that, hands down for sure, instead of using it for whatever else I used it for. So, yeah, because that right there is a no brainer, especially for those of you that are listening that are considering it, that are in college. When you come out of college, regardless if you have a bachelor's or a master's, I had some friends that had dual bachelors in biochemistry and biology. They took almost a year to find work, right? If you could get the certification and already come out with that, and in the meantime, do interning for free, which is what most students do their last 6, 7 months, you're going to come out that's already, you're already ahead of the game. So, and that's the only reason how I was able to jump in. I was a shadowing specialist for about, I think, a year for free and helping their clinics and stuff like that. So, yeah, I just think that if people think outside of the box and really look at the opportunity that this brings, they'll see that it's a no-brainer. Yeah.
And
And well, go ahead, Chris.
just to add on real quick to something Ashley said, our academy teaches the student during the internship program how to do this remotely.
Hmm.
And that's it's actually a little tougher to monitor remotely. So this is definitely an advantage to the student when they interview.
Hmm.
If you can remote monitor, you absolutely can monitor in person.
100%.
We got questions. Priya, is anyone hiring for CRA with C2C? Do you know what C2C is? I don't know.
Is that maybe, I'm
Ashley's the
looking at,
acronym
I'm
queen.
looking at my keyboard because maybe if there was, but no. If you're a level two clinical research
Company to
coordinator,
company,
yeah, I mean,
I don't know what that
yeah,
applies
Basically,
to.
the first part of your questions applies. Is
yes,
anyone
of
hiring
course.
for CRA?
Yes, of course. I
Priya,
mean,
you're in the
you'll
right place.
Yeah, definitely. Though there's a lot of hiring happening, of course. The only thing what I will say about the hiring process of CRA roles is that it takes a while. So again, uh, whether I'm teaching a student this or it's an outside client, is that you are going to wait for this process. So what do you prefer? Do you prefer to wait that time without any education or foundational or certification behind you that'll help elevate your resume, go through that process, and then potentially get turned down? or in that meantime, work on the academy, get your certification, elevate, because it's not just the cert, you also get 2 other minor certs that come with it. And then again, your resume prep and all of that. Everything that you're doing is advancing your opportunities, right? It's a you're built, it's building blocks. And so whether you're doing it here or you're doing it somewhere else, the point is that you're building, right? And so use your time wisely and don't just use it like whatever, very passively, right? And so that's what I think. Yes, they're hiring, but if you know there's going to be a time lapse in how quick they hire you, well, why don't you use it to your benefit? The way that I see it is, again, if I knew about this academy, I would have been applying initially, doing the cert. So by the time I get the opportunity, right, because I think it's a 3-month program, by the time I get through that process of applying and going through the not the onboarding, the offer letter, I can say, well, during this time frame that you already considered me as a great candidate, I also ensured the foundation of my knowledge. I'd like to negotiate for higher pay now because I can. And so again, people don't think about this, especially if you're new into the industry. Everything you do adds to that, right? And so as long as you know, and I also assist with that, we go over these classes in the academy as well. So again, the more that you have, the more knowledge, the more that you can build, right? And so that definitely recommend doing this.
And every month there's one recorded. Once you're in the internship, there's one recorded and one live that's not recorded for the interns. So people think the 3 months the class is over. No, that's just when it starts. That's when the internship starts. And that's indefinite. The average duration is 3 to 4 months of people until they start getting hired. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but I think our internship program is robust enough to give you that step ahead. And you're not going to be
Mhm,
a CRA, most people, unless you're a RN. A lot of the RNs, BSN
mhm,
RNs,
Farm
get
Ds too.
mhm,
PharmDs too, and we're one of the main differences between like the CRA Academy and the CRC Academy is lately has been the level of education of the CRA students.
mhm,
There are some that can be CRA right away, but it's not the norm.
mhm.
But like the Kalia says, do you find patient support program work good foundation to move
So
to being a CRA?
yeah, so prior to industry, I was in the clinical industry for 11 to 13 years. I keep forgetting how many, but so I know what a patient support program is. So it's great on the end of, understanding, let's say, protocol and process. However, because a CRA, you are not dealing with patients, you're dealing with the clinical staff. The only benefit I would see in how you could not negotiate, but sell yourself in the interview is the fact that you understand how to communicate with sites, you understand and are used to seeing and working with doctors, which is can be a diligent task sometimes. But as far as it really benefiting what a CRA role, the foundation of a CRA role, which is you're an auditor, not so much, right? And because again, they're going to say, well, what did you do exactly that hosts or showcases those skills? So again, you do have transferable skills that are great, but really what they're looking for is those strong foundational skills that do transfer, which is again monitoring, a really high level of quality assurance and or auditing, right? And so I'm sure you have that data entry too, again, which those are kind of the second level skill sets that transfer, but it's not the core, right? And also something I would like to tell people is that if you were to actually get mentorship and or going into the program, you will have that experience where you'll be grateful that you did, because you will understand how labor intensive these jobs can be if you don't have the right foundation of knowledge, right? It's one thing to already have that knowledge and go through the onboarding and also have to go through understanding that company's processes and understanding, your studies processes, but not actually knowing what research is, what each of these documents are, what's the foundation of them, the thought process behind it, how to think like a CRA, all those kinds of things. You are going to go through a really tough first 6 months to a year. And that's just the honest truth, right? You're going to go through that. It's going to be tough either way, but you're really going to struggle. And this is why the thought process, I guess, on a CRO or a sponsor end when it comes to hiring people that have no experience is that right? Can they actually mentally handle that without really knowing what is ahead of them? And so doing the certification and doing all these things with this help, right? And also people that have done it in the industry that can answer your questions and help you give you that thought process without you having to spend hours to go research it is what you're paying for, right? Because you want to know whether this really is for you or not. And if it is, I've had students that are in the CRA Academy that are like, you know what, I like research, but knowing what this role is particularly, maybe I might like to actually go more in just regulatory, or maybe I want to take a step back and do CTC role, right? But the great thing is that either way they have that cert and they can grow on them and they can also negotiate for more, right? So again, you can't have these thought processes unless you're already in the industry. And one of the main reasons why this is invaluable to people, so valuable, sorry, is because you have that immediate access and you get that perspective to know if
Instant.
there's, yeah.
And they get connected to people like you, Casey, Tiffany,
Mhm.
Jeslyn. We got it, Chris. Jeslyn's next to come live
Oh,
Uh
Jesslyn.
as
oh.
we're promoting the January Syria Academy.
Jesslyn's
I
awesome.
mean, we teach everything: EKG, career prep, motivation, the technical. Like Ashley said, all components of it. And you're gonna make a great MC at SOS. I already know. Um, Huma, shout out to Huma. I met Huma at a recent investigator meeting in Dallas. She found me in the buffet line, and that's where I was. And she said, "Hey, thank you for." And we did a video later on Zoom, but she's a site director in Canada, and
Mhm.
she's awesome. And she says, "Look, Ashley, remote monitor can only establish rapport if you're not bombarding them with loads
Yes.
of repetitive questions." Huma,
And
you are right. Your
yeah.
BS radar is sharp. It's calibrated.
Yeah, and
Calibrated.
that's actually something that I do teach. I teach on one of the classes that it's important that you understand what the site needs and that you are effective, because there are, again, monitors out there that are just doing the job and not trying to effectively do the job well, right? And
Going through
and
the motions.
yes, exactly. And so, yeah, I mean, you have to be an
Mm.
advocate for the site. And if they're only listening to the CRO management and not saying, hey, the site is, overloaded, we need to back it up a few bits with the emails and things like that. If they're not doing that, well, then they're not doing their job correctly.
You're the protocol expert as the CRA. One of my recent CRA does this well. We started a new study. We called him in the middle of a screening, answers on the first ring, and knew the answer to what we asked. Like none of this, let me get back to you. No,
Yeah,
no. We can't get back. What do you mean to get back? The patient's pissed off.
it's
Like
right
what?
here.
There is no
Yeah.
getting back. We need now. And
Hmm.
this is what we need to hire more of in the industry, not people that are just passive, sitting back. That's not how things get done. Sorry, Chris, for blocking you, but Hanisha wrote a Kindle. So, hi all.
Oh, El
Thank you
Paso,
so
Texas.
much. El Paso, look, where anyone in El Paso right now need to hire a coordinator. Look at this motivation right here. I know El Paso's got sites. I'm in El Paso. I contacted local sites applying to all jobs and research, but no experience. I'm not finding any break. Already did GCP. Either
Yeah.
do more or do one of the academies or both because
Yeah. So
there's nothing. You have to
GCP
go.
GCP
Sorry.
is the same thing with clinical. Again, you can have the like a basis, but it's not giving you the thought perspective. It's not giving you like if you don't know the documents you need to look at, if you don't know how things need to go about with SOPs, if how everything kind of relates to each other, you can know all the good clinical practice in the world. You can have an amazing medical background, but when you get your feet wet and step into that position, you're going to be a chicken without a head, right? And I say this
Mm.
because I had research background and I had clinical background, and I started and I was still kind of lost for a little bit, right? This is a real thing. This is why I say I would have gone through the academy, because even with that, I still had problems going in. And this is why I kind of feel like I got inspired to do what I do now with the academy and outside clients, because extra guidance is needed. Even the onboarding is not enough at your company, right?
You know what we should do, Ashley?
Mm.
This got me thinking because
Mm-hmm.
I know you gotta go. We gotta get to more questions, but look, This question from Hanisha that's covering Chris's face. I get this like I kid you not every hour. Okay.
Yeah.
And not everyone can afford academy. I get it. We need to do with Latinos in clinical research like 1 month. We need to do like a open office hours where all people like Hanisha that are trying to get hired come on the Zoom
Hmm.
and we just talk to them all live, even if it
I
takes like
mean,
2 hours.
I'm
I
open
bet you
for that.
somebody's getting hired off of that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm sure.
We
I'm
need to
open
do
for that.
this
Obviously, we just need to schedule it and
maybe
figure out
January.
logistics.
It's like New
Yeah.
Year's
Oh
resolution.
yeah,
Do it
open
in January.
open that up. That'll be our opening for sure. I
We'll
think
have
that's
a
a good
big
idea.
event. I'll do it at the Guru Blast. We'll blast the SOS people.
Where's that?
We got to do it. We're going to get like 50 people on there like needing jobs.
I mean, I'm open for it. I'm sure Monica and Judy will be too.
Oh yeah. We already know Monica's down.
Yeah.
Okay, Chris. Well, Chris,
Hmm.
any thoughts on Hanisha? Can you talk behind her text?
Well, I certainly can. So another thing, Tanisha, to consider is potentially interning at a site for free to get some experience because GCP is not quite cutting it in
Yeah.
terms of experience in the industry and offering a solution to coordinator work. Um, Sites want to see somebody with experience, somebody that they don't have to train from the get go, which you would have to go through such training even with the GCP certificate. Um, Interning for free is a good way to go.
Hmm.
But even that, you got to go in there with something more than GCP. You got to go in there like, hey, I know how to recruit patients,
Well,
Hmm.
or I know
exactly.
places to go. I'm connected with restaurants. I can get our flyers in those restaurants or those cafes.
I
Like
can't
something
I,
tangible.
I can't tell you how many videos in the past Dan and I have done on if you want to go into a clinic and offer free recruiting service
Oh
for
my
patients.
gosh.
I mean, Dan and I have done probably a dozen videos alluding to
OMG.
this.
My beard was black. Actually, I had no beard when we started doing this. It's so many, man, but it's we need more.
Hmm.
Okay, India, Sagar, 2 years of experience, QC microbiology, advanced PG diploma. See, the Indians are highly educated over there. That
Hmm.
economy is booming. Clinical data management. I want to transition my career in research. Is there any
Oh
opportunity
yeah.
for me? Of
I
course.
mean, in your scenario, you'd probably have multiple offers. You'd probably even have the opportunity to, set your pay as well, negotiate because of your background. Um, but I mean, if I had your background, I would think about what's the end goal that I want, like what kind of role I'd like to end up in, and then think about whether starting in the median level or starting at the roots is best, meaning like the site, or at a medical institution and research, only because if you get that full perspective and you grow on it, as you grow, not only are you going to continue to be able to hold your request the kind of pay you want, but it's also going to give you that much more leverage as you move up, right? Because you're also having the user perspective if you're going more the data end and all of that. So just thinking about not just about getting a job, but in your scenario, because you definitely, I'm sure you will get offered a position quite quickly. It's more of how do you want to maneuver your career? That's how I would go about it.
Um, anyone, Huma says anyone hiring medical advisor, clinical development personnel have good insight into protocol. See, just keep networking
Things
with
like,
people. Huma does a great job of networking too.
hmm I think medical they're looking at medical writing, which I think is a really big thing that's happening right now that I'm seeing a lot more of those job openings popping up now, which is crazy because when I started, I don't think I ever really saw many of them, and now they're popping up a lot more. Clinical development, I mean, I don't know, I think that would be more on the patient recruitment side, right? I would think because if you're trying to do like a bridge between the clinical and doctors as to the actual research, I mean, I don't know. That one's a bit. I'd have to think on that one a bit.
Okay. And Alicia says Honey should take a contract role of 6 months, then try applying again.
Mhm.
Yeah, anything really, just get in. Look, she did. Hanisha says she did an academy already from another course. I would like to
Mhm.
intern for free. We can't do free internship at our
Mhm.
academy. It's we pay the staff. We actually lose money on the internship. It's just for our students. Uh, but you need to contact sites in El Paso for the internship.
Yeah,
Mhm.
actual research sites is where you're going to go
Yeah.
and offer free internship or free work, basically.
Mhm.
And Huma says once you get in, no one leaves until retire or die. This is
Yeah,
correct.
pretty much, yeah.
That's correct.
I don't know what education. It sounds more like a school training from certificate from for research. I will say this: I've spoken to at least I think 7 people that have done research bachelor's, where it's kind of like a 6 month period and or in a master's. It is very different. The universities go more the route of academia, which is again different than public. Not crazy different, but there's things that are differentiate them, right? And me personally, I actually have a friend who's a PI in academia and research here, and I personally like more the private sector in, especially because I feel like the way to maneuver into new roles is easier. I know Dan and Chris, you guys have talked about it in academia. It's very, especially for CRCs or potentially CRAs. I don't know how that would work in academia for the CRAs. It would probably just be a QA specialist, but you're
Yeah.
very, tunnel vision in your work. In private sector, which I do feel the pay is better, the maneuvering options are way more vast.
Yes.
It's like that because when you're in these roles, you are not tunnel vision. You are touching in on different areas of the industry for that role, not just, just quality assurance, not just data review, right? And so, um, yeah.
Hey,
It's the difference between the the you taking a clinical research course in college that's theory versus practical. It's the difference between like learning how do you do a study? Oh, you follow protocol and GCP versus like my here's a live one I got 3 hours ago from our CRA from at my site. Rescue med diaries need to be assessed for AEs. A rescue med dispensing log needs to be completed. Delegation and SIV logs to be completed. Source document location form checklist to be completed. These are like the actionable things. Nobody cares that you know the theory. The theory
Mhm.
is who cares? You can learn that for free. You don't need a
Yeah.
course.
And it's not to say that you wouldn't get an offer. You definitely would. You definitely get interviews for sure. The only thing on that is just when you get to the interviews, again, I go over this in the academy with the students. When you get to the interviews, they're going to test that knowledge, right? And they're not going to test it based off on what Dan said theory and bookcase knowledge. It's about tell me about a time that you've experienced this and or how you understand this. So how are you responding to that as a potential CRC or CRA? In this case, CRA, right? How are you responding to that now? Naturally, because you have the internship, you have that viewpoint, and then also through the mentorship, right, um, you're also able to ask these questions and hear the viewpoint from actual CRAs that have gone through these scenarios and situations that give you that light bulb click, right? So yeah.
Here's one from Alicia. Let's talk about postgraduate education, MBA versus masters in research. Which one?
I
So
would do business.
I would do business too. But
Yes.
here's the thing. If you don't have research experience, don't get
Yeah.
any. Get
Yes.
in. Do the CRA
Mhm.
Academy. Get something to get in. Once you're in, if you really want to go that route, advanced degrees do help you advance faster, do
Yes,
careers,
and not
but
only
they
that,
don't help you cut the line faster. They
yeah.
don't help you cut the line.
And if you're in a CRO and a sponsor, they also help you with your education, right?
what
Financially sometimes, so.
Yeah.
what sponsors, and I got a funny story to back this one up, but what sponsors want to see, unfortunately, at least as a CRA, they want to see experience.
Mhm,
Mhm.
And that's something that we offer with our internship program. It's for as long as you need. So you literally, most of our students, I think Dan already mentioned this, spend 3, 4 months in the internship program and then they seem to be able to get hired.
mhm,
Um, But quick funny story: our most recent student to join the academy, which was yesterday, I believe. I spoke with her, and she had taken our nearest competitor's course, which charges, I think, 3 times what we charge.
Most
And you know
likely.
what?
12,000.
Yeah, you know what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
She said the course was good, the material was good, the internship just was not long enough. They offer a 30-day internship, and it's just not long enough
30
for.
And we
days.
got
Yeah,
internships. Some of our students, they take years off and they come back
yep, and we
and
still
they
provide it to them
ask to
for
do our
free.
internship. They do it free. Yeah.
Yep.
What's crazy about that 30-day period is that how if a company, if CRO for CRA, if a company takes 90 days to assume if you're even good, why would you even go for an internship that is just a month? That's not even,
Well,
obviously, it's not enough time to get that exposure,
Well, the
you
deal
know?
is, though, I mean, most sponsors now want to see a year experience in order to consider you for a position.
Hmm.
Um, and we do offer references. We'll confirm how long you've been in the academy. So it's 3 months in the academy, and again, most students 3 or 4 months in the internship. And sponsors will generally accept that if they're looking for a year's experience. 6 months, 7 months, they'll generally, okay, that's close enough to our year mark because
Hmm.
they need the employees.
Um, this MBA thing, I would do that, but
Hmm.
it's only if you're already in and you're trying to advance faster.
Yeah.
The only practical degree, like if you're on the fence right now with no research experience and you're thinking of getting a RN degree, that's different. I think
Yeah.
that might be a decent route to go also,
That's actually
and
something I'm
then
thinking about in the
CRA.
next few years.
Really? You're gonna do RN?
Yes, yeah,
Wow.
because I have all the the medical and clinical, and it still hasn't expired, and I've already checked into it, so I think that that's something that I may consider.
Ah,
But yeah.
makes sense for you. And then you could
Hmm.
go the NP route too. And
Yep.
Alicia says yes, postgraduate only after you've got the experience. Okay, perfect. Then
Yes.
I'm okay with it. Because
Yeah.
now you're making money. You can go into student debt. I don't like either MBA or Master's in Clinical Research. I have an MBA, but I would do that over Master's in Clinical Research.
Yeah.
Here's your Master's in Clinical Research. This right here. What else are they
Yeah.
gonna tell you?
And then it goes back to thinking about where your process at, what you're thinking at. Like, are you wanting to stay in clinical research? Where would you actually use that MBA specifically? I only think that it makes sense if you're potentially going to own your own business, like a site. But then
Yes.
even then, you have two individuals here that already do consulting for that. So it's just, I'd rather just spend my money instead of investing in an education. Just give it to people that have already invented the wheel and just follow it. You don't need to,
Yeah.
sit on the shoulder of giants. That's just how it works. And so
Mm,
till you can understand that, you just start doing things more. I really feel like the old educational system has been long overdue, like just not cutting it since I was back in college. I saw that a long time ago. That's why I did full-time school and I had two jobs and I ran an organization to make sure that I was building myself because I didn't see the potential of just having the degree. And so and it proved right. Most of my co-students that had a higher education, higher GPA, everything than me, took them about a year. I immediately got hired right out of graduation because of the experience, right? And so, you
But
know,
you and Dan are both right at the same time. So if she's looking to do, let's say she wants to be a project manager,
mhm.
her master's in research would help her acquire that
Oh,
position.
okay, yeah,
But I agree with you too, Ashley. I mean, I think you're both right. It depends on what she wants to do.
yeah,
And grow like if you want to be a CTM or a medical monitor, an international medical degree is also fine.
hmm,
But everything is with research experience, and that's the
building,
part that you honestly you can't pay for. Like our thing is the closest thing to where you could pay for experience, and it's even that's it's not perfect. We're always looking for ways to improve it, but it's the closest and most cost effective thing at 5,000 versus whatever the other ones charge
12.
12 or 15, who knows.
Hmm.
um it's you got to look at where your ROI is coming from.
Mhm.
That's it, though. I mean, closing remarks from the MC of SOS and the. Do you like that open hours, office hours idea for LICS?
I like it. I mean, we did that what I think last year, and I don't know if it was the in January, but it was a big hit. I'm open for it again. I mean, you know me, anything that gets us in front of people to help.
Let's get
I'm
people
open.
hired. Chris,
Yes.
you're up for that, or
I don't recall, but sure. I don't recall it last year. I'm sure it happened, but I
imagine
don't remember
you.
yesterday.
Well, Chris, put it this way, right? You, let's just assume it's just you, okay?
Hmm.
And maybe 50 potential job seekers across the world asking you questions, and viewers watching that might be potential employers. Would
Mhm.
you host this by yourself? Would you be the MC of
Sure,
this?
that's
See,
not a
Chris
problem.
is down. So if Chris can do it, we can all gonna do it as a group. Monica, Ashley, Judy, it's gonna be successful.
Dan will email out to his Guru Nation. So if you haven't subscribed with him, already subscribe. If you haven't subscribed with
Subscribe, yeah.
LACR, go subscribe.
And if
Hmm.
you have our comprehensive guide to clinical research audiobook, you will hear Chris's email. But I won't say it again. I won't
You
say
know
it
what?
again.
I will say this. I will say this. If you guys
Thanks,
have
Dan.
not, if you are not in the space, like I'm coming from this perspective of how I used to be in college or coming straight out, especially in the clinical industry. I felt like the process in the clinical industry was very relaxed, very quick and easy once you know knew or where you're going. So naturally I'd be skeptical of investing. So what I would suggest then if you're in that situation, get their book on Amazon, read it. You will see through the
Ooh,
conversation.
wait.
I mean, the book's one thing. I prefer the audio because the audio you guys go into depth about different things.
Yeah, it's
If
like
you
two
have
books.
yeah, I was saying so get into that. I would say do the audio, buy the audio, and listen. When you hear the depth of what that entails just at the site level, you'll get an understanding as to why you just cannot do GCP training and this or that. You're gonna see how much more there really is behind this, and you'll understand why the investment is worth it, and even more so when you get that experience. Because I know that when I heard it, I was just like, oh man, I don't know if I could do regulatory. I don't know if I could do this. It's a lot. And then once I started getting the exposure myself, then I started feeling confident, right? And then you can more confidently explain that in your interviews, more confidently jump into this role,
Here's
right?
an
So,
example. I can't script this. This is the universe. I'm on LinkedIn right now. A former student of ours who's on her second job already. She's already CRA. Wait, let me see what she is actually. I'm not gonna mention her because she's gonna get another job. It looks like, but
mhm,
she was a CRA, and now she just messaged me, "Hey, I hope everything is good. I got another role. They're gonna call you
awesome.
for a background check. This it looks like it's for a sponsor now. So
Mhm.
look, like
Very
years
fast.
later, we still keep in touch with our students. We're not gonna leave you alone after you finish our class and move on to the next. That's
Well,
You're always part of CRA Academy alumni.
we're not reaching out to you and harassing you.
Yeah.
No, no.
You're coming to us, and we'll still help you out
Yeah.
years later.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So that's it.
You made it sound like we're harassing them.
I
We're not going to leave you alone.
know.
We're stalkers.
Oh, I mean, like some of the competitors. The
Yeah.
class finish, goodbye, new
Yes, sure,
people.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Leave you alone, like in the middle of a desert with no
Yeah, pay
water.
us again, and then maybe we'll help you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come on. We could do better. Okay. Thank you guys. The CRAacademy.com. Connect with Ashley underneath and with Chris. You can email him, but you have to get our audiobook and hear the email.
And that audiobook's a tenth the price of the paperback.
The paperback's 30 something. The Kindle is $3.
Yeah, tenth
Right.
the price,
So
and twice
paperback
the amount of
because you
book.
actually see some examples of documents, but audio because they go into depth. So if you're somebody like me, I got the book and I did the
And Kindle
audio.
for cheap. If you don't have
Yeah.
money, $3.
Well,
Just
there
don't
you
go to Starbucks today.
did you right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Bye bye.
Everybody have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, you guys.